Good morning. It is 7:04 on a rainy Friday. We've reached the end of another week, going into a long Memorial Day weekend. Do you have big plans for this weekend? I'm still getting myself together. Are you gonna barbecue? Or are you gonna relax? What are your plans for this weekend? My plan is to straighten up my house. I had planned on working in my yard, but unfortunately, it is going to rain all weekend here. I am so sorry. I am trying to. Thank you for being patient with me. Okay. Thank you. That's better. Okay. Now I like to try to get in here and I try to shape it up. But a lot of times I have to do it right when I'm in the middle of my live. But I appreciate y'all working with me and your patience while I get that done. We've been talking about Movement May all month. And movement is not just a place of physical exercise, but it's a movement of spirit. And one of the things that I was really, I wanted to accomplish and led to really talk about is whatever faith you have. I'm coming from the perspective of when you're crossing your Red Sea. That's the moment in which everything opens up and you have an opportunity to move. And a lot of times we get paralyzed by that next level of our life. But real movement requires truth and courage. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I want to welcome you in, you beautiful souls. I hope that you are all safe, first of all, relaxed and had a good night's sleep. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you're up early, thank you for coming. Whether you watch me live or you watch me later, know that I am honored by your presence. And thank you for coming to visit me to my Chillin' Spot chat. So it's Movement May, and we're bringing two powerful truths together: that movement requires truth and movement requires courage. Because this isn't just a message. This just isn't a show. This is a coaching moment. A moment to slow down, check in, and get honest about how you're really moving. So let's set the tone. Let's take a deep breath in. Release it. Settle your body, settle your spirit. Because my first coaching question for the morning is, how am I really doing today? Not the polite answer, not the spiritual answer, the real answer. Because movement begins with honesty, and so does transformation. So when we talked about this a little bit last week, when someone says, how are you doing? Our initial response is to say, I'm fine. But when we are embarking on true movement, when the Red Sea opens and we are about to embark and go to our promised land, we need to be honest about how we're feeling. If you're feeling afraid, say I'm afraid. If you're nervous, say I'm nervous. If you're feeling anxious, that's okay, because we need to, part of telling the truth is not only does the truth set you free, but the truth normalizes that not all of us are fine all the time. We are not always in the mood, as I like to say. We're not always in the framework. Things have happened. We've had bereavement in our family. We've had a tough week at work. We've got children. We got bills. Sometimes the most honest thing we can do is tell the truth. And what we do when we tell the truth, we allow ourselves to sit in that truth. We allow ourselves to be honest. And also, when we tell the truth, we give permission to other people to tell the truth back to us. So, number one, how am I really doing today? Be honest with yourself. Are you tired? Are you worn out? I know it's been a rough week for me, work-wise. I've been super busy. But today, the real answer is I'm tired, but I'm present. What about you? Because that's when real transformation begins. So this week we've been naming something important, something that we call faith. But really, sometimes when we say faith, it's really avoidance. Sometimes we call it strength, but it's really overfunctioning. Sometimes we call it positivity, but it's really numbing. And that's called spiritual bypassing. And it creates the illusion of movement. I just want to say, if I'm sweating, it's because I got my lights on in here. But also I worked out this morning. So just If you see drops of sweat, just they're glistens. But spiritual bypassing creates the illusion of movement. Now, what spiritual bypassing is a lot of times when we're faced with circumstances, we use spiritual words like, God will see me through. I have the strength. And there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times what we're doing is we're avoiding what we're really feeling, or we're over functioning. I have the strength, I will. God will see me through. And I'm not saying he won't. But sometimes that act of faith is really avoidance, because you got to put some grind behind that prayer. A lot of times we want to pray and say, well, God will deliver me. And he will. But you got to move. You have to put some movement behind that faith. You have to put some grind behind that prayer. And so when we are saying I'm fine and God will see me through, you have to ask yourself, am I spiritual bypassing? Am I creating an illusion that I'm really moving? Am I creating the illusion that I have faith? Am I just really being lazy? Am I really ready to move with expectation that these things that I'm going to get this business off the ground, that I'm going to lose this weight, that I'm going to go back to school? A lot of times those things, all those things require movement. And so a lot of times my side light just went out. Sometimes we have what I call spiritual bypassing, where we say things are great, but it's just the illusion of movement. So here's my next coaching question. Where I've been talking about movement, but I'm not actually moving. Let's sit with that. Let it land. Where have I been talking movement, but I'm not actually moving? Have I been saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I'm not moving? I'm proclaiming victory over certain things, but I haven't made a movement toward that victory. That's spiritual bypassing. So coaching question number 2 is, where have I been talking about movement, but not actually moving? Because truth is not about confrontation. Truth is clarity. Truth is alignment. Truth is the first step toward courage. So when we are honest with ourselves, when we can truly be honest and show up in that version of ourselves, that's when transformation begins. But if we're lying to ourselves, I'm sorry, I'm sweating. But if we're lying to ourselves, if we're doing avoidance, if we're using spiritual bypassing, we're not clear. We're not telling the truth. We're giving an illusion of the truth. And again, truth isn't to convict you. Truth is to set you free. Truth provides the clarity. Truth puts you in that alignment. And when you're honest with yourself and walking in that, and you're moving in that, that's real transformation. So say this with me. Movement requires truth. Say it again. Movement requires truth. Because when you tell the truth, even quietly, something begins to shift. You stop circling the same mountain. You stop calling the chaos normal. You stop calling silence peace. The truth breaks the illusion of the movement. Truth puts your feet back on solid ground. Truth gives you direction. So here's your coaching reflection. What truth have I been avoiding because I'm afraid of what it will require? Sometimes we don't tell the truth. Good morning, Mommy Henry. It's good to see you too this morning. Sometimes we don't tell the truth because the truth is going to require us to do things differently. We get stuck in these same patterns of how I've always done it this way. Well, this is what's expected of me, or this is what I've always done, or this is whatever. But when we stand and tell the truth, it's going to require a different response. When you're growing and becoming the best version of yourself, you can't we say it all the time, you can't keep hanging with the people you used to hang with. You can't. If they're not evolving with you, then you're going to have to separate yourself. Elevation requires separation. When you are ready to tell the truth and walk in that, you have to stop avoiding what's going to require you to be something different. Growth requires you to change. It requires your shift to move. You cannot keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. That is the definition of insanity. So today, ask yourself, what truth have I been avoiding because I'm afraid of what it will require? It's going to require me to let go of things. It's going to require me to eat different. It's going to require me to spend more time on my business. It's going to require me to really look at my relationship and say, is this working? It's going to require me to put my foot down. It's going to require me to have boundaries. These are requirements for me to grow and be more healthy and be more present for myself. But if I'm in a circle of dysfunction and people pleasing, that's going to require a different version of me, and I don't know if I can do that. So I'll give the illusion of it. I have great words. I have great affirmations that I say every day. But are you walking in those? Are you moving toward that? Something to think about. What truth have I been avoiding because I'm afraid of what it will require? Because again, truth does not punish you. Truth positions you. Truth prepares you for the courage. Now let's talk about courage. Not the loud version, not the perfect version, the real version. Courage is moving when you're afraid. Courage is moving with trembling hands. Courage is obedience without all the answers. Courage is trusting God to meet you in motion. Real courage doesn't say, well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait. And I'm going to wait until I hear from God, which there are times where the obedience is to sit still. So I don't want to overlook that. But for a lot of times, if you look at stories in the Bible or the Quran or whatever, to whomever you pray, there are incidences and situations of where the person had to move out of their comfort zone to get to the next level, to hear from God. They had to leave that location. They had to leave their family. They had to leave a certain situation to be able to hear directly from their higher power. So when I say God will meet you in motion, that means that you're moving. Again, you can't keep hanging with the same people you used to hang with. You can't keep putting yourself in the same circumstances. God is not the author of confusion. He's just not. And if you're in chaotic, confusing situations, you can't hear from him. So sometimes the separation is just simply, I can't be in this chaotic situation. I can't be with these gossipy coworkers at work. I can't be with the chaos that's going on in my groups or my that friend group. God will meet you in motion means that when you begin to move away from the dysfunction, when you begin to move away from what is holding you there, the fear, when you begin to move, God can meet you in motion. And that's courage. Courage is trusting. I'm going to step out on faith and I'm going to start this job. I'm going to start this nonprofit, but I can't sit and wait until I get a grant before I open it. That's not how that works. And anybody who's ever worked a nonprofit knows you don't start a nonprofit then get a grant. That's just not how it works. You have to prove that you're capable of doing the work. You have to prove that you have the infrastructure in place in order to sustain that grant. You have to prove that you've already served the very people you're attempting to reach. It is no different in life. If you are asking God to take you to the next level, you got to do it in motion. You've got to show God you're ready. If you want God to bless you with $1 million, are you faithful with the $20 he gave you? I'm stepping on somebody's toes. If you want God to supply more and fill your storage house, have you given away? Have you emptied your storage? Are you just holding on to things? God will meet you in movement. But you have to step out. He will meet you in that motion. You have to start walking. Because here's the next coaching question. If I wasn't afraid, what would I do next? Sometimes courage looks like a boundary. Sometimes courage looks like rest. Sometimes courage looks like, I am not repeating this cycle. And sometimes courage looks like running. So when we think of courage, it just doesn't, the movement require, that courage that comes with that isn't just, well, you're going to do it afraid. If you're afraid, do it anyhow. The Bible said don't be afraid, but you got to do it anyhow. You have to believe and develop that self-worth that I am worth it. And like I said, sometimes the courage is just setting a boundary, saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry, I can't engage in that behavior. No, you can't borrow money. No, you can't move in with me. No, you can't, continue to act. No, I cannot continue to be your emotional punching bag. Sometimes it just looks like, I'm just done repeating this cycle. I'm not going to continue to stay in this relationship, this workplace, whatever this is, this family dynamic. If this is the cycle that comes with it, I'm going to have to remove myself. So again, if I wasn't afraid, what would I do next? Because the next process is to look like you have to start running. And so this is our run moment. This is your Pharaoh's army moment. The past is behind you. Old fears, old patterns, familiar pain, survival mode, that's in the past. And here's the truth. You can't just stroll away from some things. You can't tippy-toe some patterns. You can't just avoid certain things. You've got to run. You got to run toward clarity, run toward healing, run toward the version that God has been creating and preparing you for. And here's the coaching point for that. What am I still entertaining that God has already delivered me from? Let me repeat that. What am I still entertaining that God has already delivered me from? We will entertain things, people, and places because that's our familiar. That's what we're familiar with. That's what fits comfortable in our zone. But that is no longer suits you. This is the moment where Pharaoh's army is behind you. This is the moment where your fears, your past, that old job, that old relationships, they're coming for you because let me tell you something else, and I'm going to be quick. When you start healing, when you really start moving in God's direction, the very people that discounted you are going to come after you because they see that healed version of you. Now they want to be engaging. Now they want to talk. It's time to run. You've got to be able to leave that behind you, and you can't skedaddle through it. Sometimes you have to pick up your stuff and run. So as we get ready to come to a close, I want you to place your hand over your heart and take a breath and ask yourself, what truth do I need to face today? What courageous step am I willing to take? And I affirm it with this. I move with truth. I move with courage. Good morning, my auntie. I move with truth. I move with courage. I move with God or your higher power. So jump in the chat and let me know what you think about moving forward with courage when in truth. Understanding that we have to move forward. Sometimes it means shaking. Sometimes it means we're unclear, but we're moving forward. We're taking that courage to do so. And this week, I have one coaching challenge that's very simple for you. I want you to write down one truth that you've been avoiding and one courageous step that you're willing to take. Not 10 steps, not the whole plan, not an entire vision board, just one. Just one step that you're willing to take for yourself. One moment of truth that you've been avoiding. Because this is your season to move with honesty. This is your season to move with courage. And next week, we gonna run. So it's up to us. We ready to move. Again, jump in the chat. Let me know what you think about it. Are you ready to run? Are you ready to look at that one truth you've been avoiding and that one step that you're willing to take? This is your season. The Red Sea has opened. This is your opportunity to move across on dry ground. We're going to get to the other side. Everything you want is on the other side of this pain, everything that you've been avoiding. Once you deal with that, that is on the other side. It's on the other side. We're ready to break. We're ready to break chains. We're ready to break generational curses. We're ready to break cycles of procrastination. We're ready to move forward. So I want to give my 2 love notes. My first love notes is to all of you. I want to thank y'all. I had asked last week for prayer for a gym friend of mine named Corey, and he was on life support. He was in critical condition. He's off oxygen now. He's breathing on his own. God is good. He's a wonderful person, but still in the woods, still, in a delicate situation, but we're going to continue to lift him up and pray for him. Lastly, I want to ask to pray for just seniors in general. As y'all know, I work with seniors, and I just have so many people who are going through difficult times emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially. Let's just keep one another in prayer. Let's just remember that all of us are carrying a burden and a load. And when we can be mindful of that, when we are so less divisive about, well, you have not, when we all understand that we all are carrying something, we can offer grace to one another. So let's do that. And today's reading comes from one of my books, Blessing Comes Through Battles, When the Blessing Isn't Obvious. And I want to come from chapter 11, Reframing the Narrative. There comes a moment in healing when the story shifts, not because the facts change, but you do. You don't have to erase the pain. You get to decide what it means to you now. Because the story isn't just what happened, it's what you chose to carry forward. It's the moment when you realize, I'm not just the one who lived it, I'm the one that gets to name it. You are allowed to tell your story from a healed place, not just a hurting one. You are allowed to speak softly, to leave out the parts that still sting, to shape your words like bombs, not a blade. You don't owe anyone the raw version. You don't have to bleed on pages to prove that you survived. You get to choose what you share, how you share it, and who you share it with. And most importantly, you get to tell it with authority, because your voice just isn't a tool, it's your testimony. And your testimony just doesn't recount, it reclaims. Blessings come through battles. I keep saying it every week, but I am going to put the link for my Amazon page in there. So if you're interested in that book, or you can look at all my books, I appreciate it. They're meant for healing. And I want to thank you for joining me today. But again, whether you watch me live or you watch me later, I am so honored that you have chosen to share your time and space with me. I do not take it for granted. Next week, we're going to conclude Movement May, because we've built up to it. Pharaoh's army's behind us. Now, next week, with all the tools we have, moving forward with truth and courage, we're getting ready to run. Hope everybody has a wonderful and safe Friday. Hope you have a blessed and relaxing weekend. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.